So how many of you have attempted the problem?
So I tried.
Yeah, we have tried. We have. And what is the solution?
So y equals to 500 then 0.10 s is less than
Okay, but what was the problem? That what was his basic salary? I've forgotten.
500.
Okay, so the problem was that he had a basic of plus a commission of 10%. If sales is less than how much? 20,000, and 20,000 if sales is greater than 20,000. Okay, so what will be his salary? What is the salary function?
So 500 plus 0.10 s is less than 20,000.
And if it is greater,
So plus 0.20.
okay. So if this is 500, it's going to start from, sorry, this, right? Okay. So here the slope is, and over here the slope will be 20,000. Okay, so we are going. So what is the difference with the earlier cases?
So they were discontinuous.
And here,
Continuous.
is it continuous? Uh,
So we don't know what's happening when it's equal to 20.
yeah, so that means if you just blow it up, it will be something like this. So we don't know what S is, income is at 20,000. That is one problem. And next is there's a key. There's also a kink. So here f tau does not exist. This is the problem over here. Okay. Okay. Now let's discuss some other applications. In fact, I want to discuss two applications. Okay, so this is the, we have a production function. So we are assuming that output depends only upon one input, which is labor. Actually, we have got other inputs, let us say capital, but if we assume that capital is constant, we can write it as a output as a function of labor only. Now let us say we take dq by dl, which is marginal product of labor, and suppose this is 10. So in that case, what will be the shape of this? What will be this shape of this marginal product line? It will be
Parallel to
constant
labor
at
axis.
10. Yes, it will be parallel to the labor axis. This is MPL. Now, this is, well, I mean, in this case, what will happen is if you just go on adding labor, output will go on increasing by 10 units. So if you add one worker, hire an extra worker, output will go up by 10. Another worker, output will go up by another 10, and this will continue forever. So if we assume that we have a factory, see, remember capital is fixed. So if all the other factors are fixed. So we are just putting in, hiring more labor. They are just coming into the room. So after some time, what will happen? Have you heard of the black hole? Black hole tragedy of
Yes,
Calcutta?
sir.
What is it?
Sir, I don't know, but I heard it.
Okay. So actually, the black hole tragedy did not exist. It was a fabrication. During the Sepoy mutiny, it was believed that in Calcutta, sorry, not during the Sepoy mutiny, it was about Nawab Sirajuddaulah. When you know that he had attacked the British before the Battle of Plassey. So he had attacked Calcutta and he had defeated the British at the first time. So after that,
And
the
he
rumor
also
was,
killed many people by some. Actually, I didn't remember the exact story, and he killed many Britishers ruthlessly, and that's for that the Clive Lord again took revenge.
no, that's not true. What happened was that after Sirajuddaulah withdrew, uh, the British spread a rumor that he had captured all the Britishers and put them into a room, a very small room. So basically, he stuffed them into a room and locked the door. And after some time, obviously, they died. Now, afterwards, a plaque was set up. This happened near the GPO. You know where the General Post Office is in Dalhousie. So they set up a plaque saying that the black hole tragedy occurred over here. But see, the problem is that the number of people that were supposed to be killed, you need a certain amount of space, right? I mean, for instance, think of your own room, the room where you're sitting. Can 1,000 people be forcibly entered in, pushed into that room?
No, sir, not
Unless you
possible.
are living in a palace. I'm assuming all of you are commoners. So it was something like this. The numbers did not tally. It was a very small room. Maybe 50, 60 people could have been stuffed in, after which they would have died. But the Britishers exaggerated, put 1,000 people. So, and later on, it was shown that it was a rumor. Siraj-ud-Dowlah did not do anything of that sort, but it was used to justify Clive's the attack on Siraj-ud-Dowlah and the Battle of Plassey. So anyway, so if you go on stuffing people into the factory, yeah, again a second black hole will occur, right? So if you think of marginal product, a constant marginal product, the producer will just go on increasing labor until we have another black hole. So this type of model is not very realistic. Okay. So what we can think of is we can introduce a capacity constraint. Okay, suppose we have a thermal power plant. So it produces electricity based on coal. And let us suppose that the maximum capacity, the maximum electricity that can be generated is 1,500 megawatts per hour. Okay, so in a 24-hour period, how much can be generated? 24 into 150, so 2 zeros over here. We'll have 36,000 megawatts per hour. Sorry, per day. Okay, so no matter, so given the size of the power plant, no matter how much coal you use, you cannot produce more than 36,000 megawatts per day. Okay. Let us assume that we require 250 pounds of coal to generate 1 megawatt per hour. Okay. So if you are using 1 megawatt, sorry, let me finish this. So if you are using, let us say, 250 pounds of coal, how much will you produce in 1 hour?
1 megawatt.
1 megawatt. If you use 500,
2 megawatt.
2 megawatts. So this goes on. If we use this amount of coal, what will be your production?
So 1500.
Achha, and what is this amount? This is 1, 2, 3 and 15 into 25. I think 225, right? Uh, 15 5 হচ্ছে 75
Yes, sir.
7 হ্যাঁ 225, right? Okay. So suppose they now use more coal. This is comma, by the way. So how much will electricity go up? See, for every 250, electricity is going up by 1 unit, by 1 megawatt. So here we had 225. We have increased this by a further 250.
Sir, 25 into 50, 25 into 15 is 375.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
it won't go up.
Yeah. So now we have reached capacity. So the marginal product, even if you use extra coal, the production will remain at 1,500. So what is the increased production? It is 0. So over here, if you go on increasing by 250, this is the increased production. Okay, so, but after you reach 1500, it becomes, you cannot increase production still further. So over here, production can be, we can think of the curve in this manner, that marginal product is constant over here. After that, it falls to over here. So this is 1 and this will be 375. By the way, how much did SM cover?
Sir, she is doing right now is uh, perfect substitutes the numerical part.
In production.
Yeah, production. She did last was ratio line and expansion path.
Okay. Now, if you look at a producer,
Sir, can you put the last page once?
এটা ঢেকে দিই না না হচ্ছে না তো
Yeah, thank you, sir.
এইটা করলে হবে। Okay. So we have a producer. A producer has a revenue curve, what we call a total revenue. Total revenue is simply price into quantity. Okay. The producer also has a cost curve, which is again a function of quantity. And using these two, we get a profit curve. Okay, so the producer typically wants to maximize profit. Okay, so in economics, we generally assume that a producer chooses price or quantity. In this case, it will be quantity in order to maximize profit. There are other models. The producer can simply maximize sales, the producer can satisfy, and so on. But this is the assumption that we generally make, and in the micro course. I mean, not just in this semester, but in the further semesters. Okay, now when the if you look at the markets where people where we have the producers coming together and the consumers, we can have different types of market, and the two extremes are perfect competition, where you have many producers and many sellers. On the other extreme, we have a monopoly where there is only one seller. There are many buyers, but only one seller. When you study the input market, you will see there's also a monopsony. Monopsony is there are many buyers, sorry, there are many sellers, but only one buyer. Can you think of an example of this?
Yes, sir. Sir, defense
Yes.
market, sir. Only the government is buying the defense market, defense products, but many private companies too produce the defense products. So that can be
Okay.
considered a monopoly.
Yeah. Or we can think of there's only one factory in a locality. So all the workers have to go there and try to get work. So you have got many sellers of labor, but only one buyer of labor. Okay, so we have perfect competition and we have monopoly, and in between we have monopsony, and we have something called oligopoly. In oligopoly, we have very limited number of sellers. It's not a case of monopoly where you have only one seller. You have sellers, but they are very few in numbers. And a special case is that of a duopoly, where you have only two sellers. Okay. Okay. Now in the duopoly model, we have different types of models. Like there will be the Cournot model. There is the Bertrand model. But today we want to cover the Bertrand model because you will see that it is related to monopsony. The concept of discontinuity. Okay. So remember that this is a duopoly. We have two producers whom we label 1 and 2. Okay. And we assume that they are producing identical products. Okay, so that means if I want the commodity, I can buy from either of you. There's no brand loyalty or anything. The consumer considers both products to be identical. So the consumers will buy from the producer who sells it at a cheaper price. Okay. Now suppose the second producer announces a price of, let us say, P2. Okay. What are the options before the first producer? Okay. He can set a price which is higher than P2, right? What will happen in that case? Sorry, I didn't get you.
So
Like,
consumers will go to the producer number 2.
yes, sir.
Okay. So no one will buy from him. He can set P1 equal to P2.
Sir, indifference situation, sir. Both will
Okay.
be equally acceptable to the masses.
Okay. So in that case, what will happen is the market will be shared equally. If at this particular price, let us suppose that the market demand is 100. So that means 25 consumers will buy from the first producer, 25 will buy from the second producer. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
And the third option is P1 is less than P2.
So
In
then
that
always buy
case,
from the first producer.
yeah, what we say is he captures the entire market. Okay. Now, let us suppose that the demand curve is 20 minus 2p. This is the market demand curve. And we assume that MC1 is equal to MC2, and we assume that this is constant at 4. Okay, so if it is constant, then what is the total cost? The total cost is simply given by 4Q. In fact, 4QI. Right? When I is either 1 or 2, depending on who the producer is. Achha. So what will be the profit? Let us find out the joint profit, total profit. Profit is revenue minus cost. What is revenue? Price into quantity. So this is 20 minus 2p, and this is total cost. So this will be 20p. This is 2p squared. This is 4q, right? Achha, now q is 20 minus 2p, so we can substitute this. Sorry, that is what I forgot to do. 4, this is 20 minus 2p. তাহলে কত হচ্ছে এটা? 20p 2p square minus 80 plus 4p. So this will be minus 2p. এটা কত হচ্ছে? This is 24p. Sorry, this will be minus. Now, what is the break-even point? When is profit equal to 0?
So when we have to fix cost,
Pi equal to 0. Can you solve it, please? In fact, you don't need to do it. If you think about it, it's pretty obvious. See, for if you just set price equal to average cost, that is the break-even definition. Now, what is average cost? Average cost is 4Q by Q. So price will be 4. This is the break-even point. Or rather, this is the break-even price. So that means if your price is 4 rupees, the firm will not earn any profit. Okay, so we had got this. Now we are deriving something. We are adding the constraint. If price is greater than 4, profits will be positive. If price is equal to 4, profit is 0. And if price is less than 4, you have negative profit. In that case, will the firms produce anything?
No, sir.
No, sir.
So we can rule this out. This is the zone of production which is not feasible. So one is this condition and one is this condition, these three conditions. Price will be at most equal to P2 or it will be less. And here over here we see that price cannot fall below 4. So if we combine them, what do we get? Okay, this is the condition. He's going to produce, he's going to set a price. At the most, it will be equal to P2, but it cannot fall below 4. Right?
Sir, if we solve the equation, the roots are coming imaginary.
Shekhar, that is why you have to use this other equation, the direct method. Okay. That is why you simply have to use price equal to average cost.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Acha. Let us assume that P2 is equal to 7. Okay. So in that case, P1 greater than 7, this is ruled out. Let us see what happens when P1 is also equal to 7, where the market is shared equally. In that case, this is the total, this is the market demand. And what is the individual demand? The demand for firm 1. It will be Q by 2. Right? Okay. So how much will be Q2? Q2 will be 3. Okay, is it clear, everyone?
How did you get this?
How did I get 3?
Oh, yes,
See,
about
yeah, it's 7. So Q1 will be 3, Q2 will also be 3. And you can see that the market demand for both the firms' product is, if you put 7 over here, 7 into 14 is 6. So 6 is divided equally. Achha. Now, if you are producing 3 units, what is your cost? It was 4, right? Your cost will be 12. And what is your revenue? The revenue is price into quantity. Price is 7. It is 21. So profit will be 21 minus 12 is equal to 9. Okay, so if you set a price of 7, the profit will be 9. So this is the first case, this is the second case. Now suppose you set a price which is below 7. Okay, so let us say that the price that you set P1 is 7 minus epsilon when epsilon tends to 0. See, there's no point in unnecessarily reducing price. You'll reduce price by as little as possible. Okay. Okay, so now we have, in that case, he captures the entire market. It is not Q by 2, but the demand is, in that case, Q1 is equal to Q and Q2 is 0. So we can just focus on Q1. So Q1 will be equal to Q is equal to 20 minus 2P. P is 7 minus epsilon, right? So let me multiply by 7 minus E. Okay, what is cost? Cost is 4 into Q1, which is and what will be profit? Revenue is 20 minus 2, 7 minus epsilon minus 4, 20 minus 2, 7 minus epsilon. Okay, so just work it out in short. Simplify this, please.
So 6 plus
Sorry, how much is it?
6 plus 2e. 3
6
minus
plus
e. Yes, sir. And so bracket close 3 minus e.
Will it be? I don't
Yes,
think
sir. So
so.
I took that common. I took the bracket common, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So then, so I evaluated that much. So 7 minus 4.
No, you can take only these three terms common. No,
Yes,
just
sir. So
simplify this straight away because I need this revenue also. First, just do this part because I will need the revenue also. Actually, you can simplify this. This will be how much? 14. Right. So this is 20 minus 14 plus 2e. Anyway, this will be 7 minus epsilon. This is 6 plus 2e. So how much? This is 42 minus 6e. Okay, this is 14 epsilon and this will be 2 epsilon square. So this is revenue. this will be 80. This is 14 into 4 is 56. This is 6 plus 2e. So it is 24 plus 80. Okay, so profit will be 42 minus 24 is how much? 6, 18. 80 gets cancelled. So this is the profit. Okay. Now in the limiting case, this is equal to 18. So that means the profit will be 18 and the limiting case, in the limiting case, revenue will be 42.
Sir, could you please show the last slide?
কোনটে বলো তো?
স্যার
এইটে?
এর আগে হ্যাঁ স্যার এটা স্যার এখানে যে -2p² + 24p -80 আছে না,
হ্যাঁ।
ওটা এখানে 28p হবে না? কারণ আমরা কিউ তো 20 - 2p নিয়েছিলাম না, তারপর ওটা 4 দিয়ে মাল্টিপ্লাই করলাম, এখানে 4p টা 8p হবে তো?
-20
4 into 2p
Minus-
আছে না, so 4 into 2p becomes
প্লাস
8p.
8p হবে না?
-80 plus
না,
8p.
মাইনাস মাইনাসে প্লাস হচ্ছে।
হ্যাঁ, -80 plus 8p হবে।
হ্যাঁ, এটা 4 না হয়ে 8p হবে না?
8p হবে, so এটা 28p হবে।
কিন্তু এটা আমি how will I write this? আচ্ছা, 8p যদি হয়, this will become 28p.
Yes, sir.
তাহলে বোধহয় এটা সলভ করে তুমি পেয়ে যাবে। এইটা হচ্ছে তোমার 28 স্কোয়ার হচ্ছে কত?
স্যার দুটো পয়েন্ট বের হচ্ছে, একটা 10 একটা 4।
আচ্ছা, এবার ডিজা প্রফিট, তাই তো? আচ্ছা, এবার you will see that for a level of 10, না, what you are doing is you are solving for price, right? আচ্ছা,
Yes, sir.
এবার তোমার P2 টা কত ছিল? P2 was 7. এবার তুমি এখানে ধরে নিচ্ছ যে P1 is less than 7, which is equal to P2. তাহলে কি এইটা হবে 10 হবে? 10 is ruled out. So although you have multiple solutions, only P1 equal to 4 satisfies this condition. ঠিক আছে, P1 equal to 10 যদি নি, if we take P1 equal to 10, then we can't satisfy this condition. So P1 will be equal to 4, not 10.
স্যার একটা
ঠিক আছে?
কোয়েশ্চেন ছিল।
I had a question.
Yeah.
P1 less than 7. Where did this come from? Are we assuming it?
Yeah, that is what we have done.
Okay, sir.
We are setting a price of 7, and then we are trying to find out that how will the first producer react. See over here.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so if you want to write the revenue function of the first firm, we can have, as I've told you, we can have 3 situations. P1 is greater than 7. In that case, what will be his revenue? Will he be able to sell anything? Revenue is 0. No one will buy from him. He's charging a higher price than the other producer. So both revenue and profit will be 0. Achha, now, the second possibility is P1 is equal to 7. He sets a price equal to the second producer. In that case, the market is shared equally, and we had shown that his revenue will be 21 and his profit will be 9. We had shown this over here. See, revenue, where is revenue? Yeah, revenue is 21 and profit is 9. The third case is if P1 is less than 7. In that case, his revenue will be P1 20 minus 2P1. And his profit will be okay. When we are deriving this, remember that epsilon tends to 0. So these are for the limiting case. There should be an epsilon over here, but epsilon is so small, it's almost 0, so that we can ignore epsilon. Is it clear? Okay. So this is P1 and this is Y1, this is R1. So if price is 0, obviously he will not be getting any revenue. If he increases price, then revenue will start increasing. Until the price becomes 7. After that, what will happen? This will become, okay. So the revenue function becomes equal to 0. He loses the market. In case of the profit, okay, I made a mistake over here. Remember that the break-even point is 4 and this is 7. So that means the profit will rise like this and will come over here. Okay, and it's possible to show over here that the line will touch it at Q equal to 0. Okay, is it clear?
So
Yeah, just one second. Let me paste this. Yeah.
in the second graph, so won't it be equal to 0? Like, won't it be parallel? Like, not parallel, sir, on the P1. So after 7.
Oh, that part. Yes, of course. Yeah. Again, profit will become 0. Yeah, you are right.
The last page ones, please. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now, why am I discussing this discontinuity? We have got some very nice graphs, okay? But the most important question is, what is the equilibrium in this case? You know what equilibrium is? It is a position when agents do not want to change. Okay, so that means if it's in disequilibrium and the producer charges a certain price 6, there will be some changes. The second producer will change his price and so on. Okay, so the question is, in this case, what is the equilibrium? See, what so far the analysis that we have done was in terms of the first firm. So that means firm 2 has announced that I'm setting a price of 7. In that case, firm 1 can undersell him, or what we call can introduce a price cut to capture the entire market. Now suppose price 1, for convenience, let us say that price 1 introduces a price cut of 0.5 so that P1 becomes 6.5. So he's going to capture the entire market. Let me keep this. So P2 is 7. And sets P1 equal to, let us say, 6.5. So what will happen is firm 2 cannot sell anything. How will he react? See, now what has happened is P1 is equal to 6.5. Right? So firm 2 has got certain options. He can either set P2 continue with P2 greater than 6.5. In that case, Q2 is equal to 0. He can set P2 is equal to 6.5. The market is shared. Or now he can decide to undercut the first firm. In that case, he captures the market. Now no one will buy from firm 1. So what is he going to do?
So he's going to set it below 6.5.
Okay, so this is the option that he's going to do. So now the question becomes, let us say he has set a price of 6. When the 0 has become very prominent, let me remove this. Now, firm 1 has got 2 options. His price can be P1, in that greater than 6. In that case, Q becomes 0. He can set P1 equal to 6. In that case, Q is shared. Or he can set P1 less than 6. He now recaptures the market. In that case, again, P1 is, let us say, 5.5, and the entire process continues like this. Have you played Leapfrog? Do you know how to play Leapfrog? Leapfrog is you need a partner for this race. So what happens? You have to run and you sit down, and the other person comes and jumps over you. Your partner comes and jumps over you, and then he has to sit down. Then you run and jump over him. In this way, everyone goes on till someone reaches the end post. Okay, so you can see it's a kind of leapfrog. But now the price is gradually getting lower and lower. So you start from 7 and you are gradually lowering price. How long will this continue? So you have a leapfrogging situation when where each producer undercuts the other, and this will go on indefinitely till price becomes zero.
No, sir, till P reaches 4.
Yeah, till P1 is equal to P2 is equal to 4. And the market is shared equally. Okay. So if you try to deviate from this, you will be in trouble. No one will buy from you. And if you lower your price, what will happen? Below 4, you're going to suffer. You will capture the market, but you will suffer a loss. In fact, there's a very famous model over here. Yeah. It's a pretty old model, almost 100 years ago, by Harold Hotelling. So the problem is there's a beach over here. It's a very narrow beach. It's just like a straight line. And people are distributed evenly across the beach. So you have a linear beach. With people distributed linearly across the beach. That is, there's no cluster, a huge cluster over here. No, nothing like that. One people here sitting equidistance. Now you have got two ice cream sellers, two ice cream vendors with their carts. So how will they locate? So assume that both of them are quality walls so that the price is the same. So which vendor will you approach? Yes?
The nearest one.
Yeah. So people are going to buy from him. Price, etc., everything is the same. Okay. Now let us suppose, let us divide this into 4 zones. Well, it's not very equal. Let us say it is equal. This is 1/4, this is 2/4, and this is 3/4. Okay, you set up one vendor is over here and another vendor is over here. Okay, so he captures this entire market. All these people will come to him. All these people will also come to him. Okay. Right, so this is how the market is distributed initially.
Yes, sir.
And this is optimal because no one has to walk more than this amount. This is the maximum distance that a person has to walk. Right? Okay. Now, one person becomes very greedy. He decides to come over here. Okay. From here, he moves over here. So what happens is, he captures this entire part, and now the distance with the second vendor is lowered. So he's going to capture part of this. Okay, this distance will have to be halved. Right? So his market share falls. And here the share increases. Right? What will this person do? See, if he also advances the same distance as this, so he comes over here, right? And this is shared equally, right? Now, what will this person do in that case? He's very greedy. So he's going to, yeah, he's going to come
on this side. Yes,
even
sir.
closer. He's going to come over here. So what is this person going to do? He will also react by coming closer. And what will happen? They both reach this point. You have got two vendors over here. Now will anyone shift over to this side?
No, sir.
No, because now in that case he's going to lose. So both of them are happy. This is equilibrium, right? Both of them locate at 2/4, that is half. But what is the problem with this?
So people need to work more.
Yeah, these people have to work even more. So it is not socially optimal. Okay. So this was socially optimal. What is the profit over here? Pi 1 is equal to pi 2. Let us say this is equal to theta. What is the profit over here? It is again pi 1 is equal to pi 2. Has the profit changed? It will still be theta. In fact, what can happen is some of these people might feel that it's too far to go. So they might stop buying profit. So it is not only socially suboptimal, but in terms of private equilibrium, their profit also may be affected. Their profit may also go down. But no producer will have the incentive can risk going back to the original position. If they can come to an agreement, it's fine. But even if they come to a verbal agreement, what will happen is that they are going to try and cheat. Okay, is it clear? So there are some problems over here which you can try to solve. Let me go to start the next topic. This is 21, right? You are teaching Mathico. This is the slides. Okay. Yeah. So let's discuss the functions of one variables. Okay. Okay. Now, what is a tangent? We know that a tangent is a straight line that touches a curve at a given point. So this is an example of a tangent. We have a function y equal to fx, which gives us a curve, and this curve has a tangent at point P. There are many other tangents possible, but I have just drawn at a particular point. Okay. So corresponding to different points, we are going to have a different tangent. Okay. Now let us suppose, so as we move along this tangent, so let us suppose we change x a little bit. This will lead to a change in y. If we change a little bit, we have a change in y. Okay. So del y by del x represents the ratio of a change in y and a change in x. Okay, the slope of a curve at a point is equal to this ratio when del x is very small. In other words, this ratio will approximate the slope the more we reduce the value of del x. So for a smooth curve, the slope of the tangent is the same as the slope of the curve at point P. I think this you know from your calculus classes in your HS level. The slope of the tangent at P is called the value of the derivative of the function y equal to fx at point P. Now this ratio del y, if instead of x we have t, this ratio del y by del t, as del t tends to 0, is called the instantaneous rate of change in y. Okay, so just after 1 second, 1 nanosecond, how much has y change? So the concept of derivative is based on this idea. Now let us introduce another concept, the concept of secant. Secant is a straight line which connects 2 points on the graph of a function. So we take a point P and draw a secant with another point x1 on the function. So now let's try this. So we start off from point P and we take a point x1. In fact, we can take different points like this. And if we connect P1 to each of the points, we get seconds. Okay, now over here, what I've done is I have shifted x1 further and further away. So I'm moving up the function. Instead, let us bring x closer to P. Okay. So that means we bring T and it becomes closer and closer. Okay, let me label this x0. And what will be the limiting case? What we are basically doing is, when we are saying that we are bringing x closer to P, it means that this distance is tending to 0. And the limiting case is when x is equal to P. In that case, the second will become the tangent. Second becomes tangent at P. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. এগুলো তোমরা সব করেছো আগে, I think so. So you can see that this is the second, and if you look at this, at some we have drawn a second between point P and Q. You can see that this is del x and this is del y along the second. Okay, so given y equal to fx, let x2 is equal to x1 plus del x. Okay, so this is x1 and x2 is the gap between x1 and x2 is del x. So if you add del x to x1, you will get x2. Okay. So P is x1 fx1 and Q is x2 and f of x2. Okay. What is the slope of this second PQ? Wait a minute, please. The slope of the line PQ is del y, this is del y, and this is del x. Okay. We can write this as, what is del y? Fx2 minus fx1. And what is del x? It is simply x2 minus x1. Okay. So the slope of PQ is given by this function. Okay. Now we start from Q1 and we gradually bring Q closer towards P. So we come down the curve. So that means this del x part, okay, the difference between x2 and x1, that is gradually coming down. Initially this was the gap, then the gap is this, then the gap falls further to x3 and so on. Okay. And in this way we go on reducing del x until it tends to 0. So let us say it converges to some limit which we call m star. Then the line which passes through P with the slope m star is called the tangent through P. Okay. So with the, I'm just, well, it's a horrible diagram. Do you understand this, or do I have to draw this again?
Sir, it's understandable.
Huh. I don't know why that. So at the limit, when del x becomes 0, the tangent and secant are both equal and the slope is m star. Okay, so the limit of del x tends to 0, del y by del x, it is the slope of both the tangent and the secant. This is called the derivative. Okay. Right. So if we have a function y equal to fx, and this is defined on some open interval, including a particular point p, which is x1 over here, and we have the limit del x tends to 0, mpq. So q is another point from where we draw the secant. This limit also exists. Then the line which passes through the point P and has a slope equal to limit of del x tends to 0, mpq or m star in the previous slide. This is the tangent line of the function at P. Okay. Now we come to derivative and differential. The derivative of the function is fx2 minus fx1 by x2 minus x1. We can also write this as, instead of writing x2, we can write this as x1 plus del x. x2, in case of x2, we substitute x1 plus del x. So the x1 cancels out, we just have del x. Okay, so this is the derivative of a function. Differential, okay. If f prime x0 is the derivative of the function at point x0, then the total differential is dy is equal to f prime evaluated at x0 into dx. So the differential is a function of both x and x0. You can see from here that this differential, the change in y, is a function not only of the initial point x0 from where we are starting the change, but it is also a function of dx, that is how much we have changed. Why is this? See, if we take a point over here, this is del x. What is del y dependent upon? If we start from P1, how much of x we have changed? If instead of this, I change this amount of x, del y will change, right? So del y depends upon del x. Is this clear?
Yes,
now
sir.
suppose I'm changing del x only by this amount. Okay, if I change by the same amount over here, what is the del y? So this del x and this del x is the same. Again, this del x is the same. What is my del y? Are they equal? So even though del x is the same, P has changed, my starting point has changed. As a result of this, my del y also changes. So if we fix a starting point, if we fix P, del y depends upon how much of x we have changed. If we fix del x, del y will depend upon what is the starting value of x? What is the point P in other words? For the same del x, del y will be different as we move along the curve. Right? So that is why we say that del y is equal to, it depends upon x, it also depends upon del x. Clear? Okay, so when x changes, what is the impact on y? A differential will give us the exact change in y. Del y is the exact change in y. Derivative, however, is only an approximation of the change in y. So in that case, why do we use derivative? Okay, let's go into this a little bit more details. See, when x changes, what is the impact on y? I have said the differential will give us the exact change in y. See, in this curve, this is a function in which we are interested. Y equal to fx, in this case, fx is x square. So we want to find out that if you are moving from point P, if you are increasing x from, let us say, 2 to 4, what is the change in y? See, graphically, it's very easy. If I move over here, what is the change in y? The change in y is from here, 4, to this point. This line, this vertical line gives me the change in y, del y. Okay. And as you can see, this is 12. If I'm taking the derivative, however, I'm using not the function, which I should have. I'm using the tangent. So I'm starting from here, right? This is x, the new x. So my y is measured over here. Not the function, I'm using the tangent. So how much, if you use the tangent, how much has y increased? It has gone up from 4 to 12, so that the increase is only 8. Okay. So del y was actually 16 minus 4 is equal to 12. When we use the tangent, it is 12 minus 4 equal to 8. Del x is the same in both cases. Del x is always over here, 2. Okay, so if we use the differential, what will be the value? 12 by 2, and in this case, 8 by 2. You can see that in this case, the differential is less than the derivative. In other words, the derivative overestimates or underestimates, sorry, not the derivative, the differential, the derivative overestimates or underestimates the differential. The differential is the accurate measure. But the derivative is overestimate or underestimate? কি হলো সবাই? চুপ হয়ে গেলে কেন?
Sir, we are listening.
No, I'm asking you a question. Derivative is an overestimate of the differential, or is it an underestimate of the differential? So the derivative is greater. So it overestimates. No, sorry. It's my mistake. No, you are right. It is an underestimate. এইখানে আমার ভুলটা হয়েছে।
Sir, can you just brief it a bit? I got confused.
Sorry. See, over here we have changed x from 2 to 4. So what is del x? Del x is 2. So whether we use a tangent or we use the function, it is always 2. Okay, now let us find out how much y has gone up. First, we will use the function, which is what we should do. So if x equal to 4, we take the point on the function on this curve. So what is y now? It is 16. So what is the change in y? 16 minus 4, which is 12. So the differential says that the change in y is 12. And what is del y by del x? 12 by 2, which is 6. Now let us use the tangent. Okay, x equal to 2, so y is 4. If we increase x to 4, what is y? We move along the tangent to this point. So now we have got only this amount. This is 12. So the change in y is 8. And the dy dx is 4. 8 by 2, 4. So we can see that the differential is greater than the derivative. Okay, del y is this much, but del y is this much, dy is only this much. You can see over here, dy is equal to 8, but del y is equal to 12, this bracket. So therefore the derivative, if we use the derivative, we are underestimating the differential. Got it? And what is the error term? Del y is equal to, sorry, this should be y actually. Del y is dy, this is dy, plus epsilon. This is the error term of 4. So 12 equal to 8 plus 4. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So is dy an overestimate or underestimate? And the answer is, it is an underestimation. Now look at this and tell me. Is it an overestimate or an underestimate? Here it's a function. The function is a straight line. Y equal to mx plus b. Yes, Quickie? Yeah, it is neither an overestimate nor an underestimate. In this case, the derivative can give a proper estimate of the differential. And in this case, it's an overestimate. This is the true value of del y, but dy is giving me a higher estimate of this amount. So we can see that except in the case where the function is linear, dy dx is not the proper estimate. It is either an overestimate or an underestimate. Then why do we use dy dx? And the answer is that if we start reducing this value, okay, if we reduce the change in x, make it smaller and smaller, then you will see that the error term, the gap becomes smaller and smaller. So if del x tends to 0, dy will tend to del y. At the margin, del y is equal to dy as the epsilon or the error becomes 0. Okay, so if the change in x is marginal, dy dx can give me as good a measure as del y by del x. Okay, you can see over here that this is the error term, right? I'm reducing the value of x. Look what has happened to the error term. It has become smaller. So if I go on reducing the error term, if I go on bringing x, reducing the change in x, ultimately you are going to have the error term will get reduced. Okay, so I think it's better if I stop at this point. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is I've stopped at this point. So I'll stop the recording.